Hello everyone, and welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Harold Muliati, filling in for Rick Zanotti, who's going to be back next week. He's at a conference right now.
And I'm Geoff Blanchard, and thank you for tuning in for this week's edition of Tech Down Over. Here's the intro. Harold, that's probably one thing Rick's not doing is surfing on the beaches of England. So.
Yeah, I think he's actually on the airplane right now.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
And this is called Tech Down Over the Dogs edition, if you can hear the dogs barking in the background. So there's...
Hey, why don't you show them for a second?
Okay, see if I can... Hang on, I'll get the thing back up there. So, yes, here they so, usually they're very quiet, but today they haven't had their walk this morning, so they're very uptight. So, little puppy wants playing with the older one, and the older one doesn't want to play.
Yeah, as you can see, we've got William, the silent co-host, and Gemma,
Yes.
who is being the slightly less silent co-host right now.
Yes. So I don't know. Hopefully they'll quieten down throughout the thing, or else, because the other option is leaving them outside, and then you can hear a lot more barking going on. But usually they're quite calm. But as I said, usually you take them for a walk. But Gemma's had a de-sexing operation, so she can't go out for a walk for a few days. Which made her full of beans, so she's not sleeping as much as she has been. Anyway, that's my bit of a
well,
thing.
As we were saying before the show, your foot switch is going to get some use today.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So I believe you've got had some new equipment come in this week, Harold.
Yeah. So we just got in. So as a little bit of background, Rick had wanted to get the Aputure LightDome 2 and the Aputure MiniDome 2. However, because of some sort of, I think it's like a California regulatory thing or something, the release for the LightDome, I think both of those, the LightDome 2 and the MiniDome 2 here in California, is delayed. So instead, we got the MiniDome 1, and we got the Phottix Raja Deep 80, the 80 referring to the overall length, which is 80 centimeters. And I've done some comparison stuff. So let's see. The first thing I noticed just comparing the different, these. So we have the LightDome 1, so I compared those two to the LightDome 1, and I also compared it to we used it all on the Aputure C120D Mark II. And
okay. I was just going to ask that, which it was for.
And actually, I've got, you can see the size of these three softboxes. I've got this comparison here, side by side. So top is the LightDome 1, then we've got the MiniDome 1 and the Raja Deep 80. So, yeah, you can see that I'm not so sure how well the Raja Deep will work in our studio, because we were actually wanting the LightDome 2 because it's slightly shorter overall length than the LightDome 1. But we'll see how it works out. Actually, it gives very soft light, and it's very easy to set up. That's one thing that we didn't like about the LightDome 1 is it's a real pain to collapse and put back together. Let's see, you can see this is the speed ring adapter from the LightDome 1. It's kind of, you have to line up those tent pole things. You have to get them all in there, and it's just a pain to make sure they all bend correctly and all get into there. The more you put in, the harder it gets to continue, basically. And
I know I've been there trying to set those things up, and that looks like even the easiest part of them. But some of them are so hard to do; it's just impossible.
Yeah, and that was part of why we wanted to get the LightDome 2, because the LightDome 2 has a different system where it's the speed ring adapter. It's not separate. Basically, it's put together, but you just kind of have to fold out the tent poles. And
like a proper umbrella, So
well, speaking of umbrellas,
put it down.
Well, speaking of umbrellas, actually the one we got, the Raja Deep 80. I might be saying the wrong name for this thing, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So, anyways, the Raja Deep 80 is basically like an umbrella, which I'll show you how to open it here. So basically, just there's that catch there, and you just press it down. You just push it down. It's really easy, as opposed to the 20 minutes I spent setting up the the LightDome one.
Yes, and then you just set it up. Then you've got to take it to pieces to move it again around to the next.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I'm always with the LightDome one. I'm always afraid that I'm going to break the thing, just because you have to put so much force into. And the MiniDome one is actually easier to set up, mostly just by virtue of being smaller, I guess, because it's pretty much the same thing, just smaller. Another thing I noticed. Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh no, you carry on with the thing you noticed.
Another thing I noticed was that there's a big difference in how much light will get onto your subject using these different softboxes, or using. We also tested the light. The C120D Mark II with no attachments, and we tested it with that little metal reflector thing that comes with it. This thing, the very small thing, and we tested it with that. This for size comparison is the Raja Deep.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's that little reflector. Yeah. We also tested it with we have the Fresnel mount with the Fresnel lens. So but anyways,
that's my favorite one. That's the one where you can direct it, can't you, to a smaller size?
Yeah,
is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah, that is the one. It focuses the light, and you can really make the most out of the brightness. Like I did a brightness comparison, and I'll show that now, where you can see how much light gets to your subject using each of these things. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it kind of stands to reason that the softer light, because it's spread out more, it's going to be darker by the time it gets to your subject. Whereas, obviously, the brightest is the Fresnel with the 12-degree angle down there, because it's just focusing all of the light at your subject, basically. My subject being that. Oh, sorry. My subject being me in this case.
Yeah, that's right. But the things I like with that 120, you've got all those different shots and all those different things with just the one light and few covers. Whereas a while back they used to have a different light for a different type of light source. And so for one shoot, at least you've just got one physical camera to take around, light to take around.
Yeah. That is true, and and the other thing is that LEDs have made photo and video lighting so much lighter. They used to be these really heavy things that you'd have to lug around, but now they're one person can carry a really powerful light just easily.
Well, like last week, Sydney was talking about, because he just did a video last week about the Aputure VM. I think it was, and it was just that little small light.
Yeah.
That was did amazing quality, but it was also waterproof as well. So you could submerge it underwater, do some underwater lighting as well. So I thought it was just a fantastic little thing for about $600 US. Still not cheap, but as I said, cheap rather than not having any light source at all, because it was too big to carry anyway. So, sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted with the noise. Well, get distracted.
Yeah, and it's really been relatively recently that LED lighting has gotten more affordable and just comparable in lighting quality to other types of lights. Like I remember in 2012, it was. I mean, you had portable LED lights like this, but they kind of weren't as good. The color tended to be not as clean. I remember using some KinoFlow LEDs back around 2013, 2014 or something, and the thing you would get was these wavelength peaks, and even though you wouldn't think you'd be able to tell, it's you know, where you just get these peaks of certain colors and a lot of the in-between wavelengths you don't get. It looks weird, like it plays with your eyes in a funny way. I don't know. Whereas
yeah, I know I've got one of the older LEDs. It does the job, but it's still even though you can turn it up and down, it's still sometimes either too strong or not enough. And then you have to deflect it off something or whatever, whereas some of the newer ones, you don't have, they're much easier to get the right lighting source that you do want. So.
That's true. And I guess, you know, speaking of the Aputure C120D Mark II that we've got, it goes, you can turn it down all the way to nothing, so you can make it, you know, ridiculously dim if you want to. Here's
she's coming. She's watching herself on the screen. That's what she can see herself on the screen as well. She's watching the monitor. She doesn't like that. She says, "I can see myself on the screen." And
now your dog is interested in technology. You're going to have to start buying camera equipment, not only for yourself but for your dog.
But that's another thing with technology that really amazed me, because you know, years ago, when you had dogs. And that you never used to worry about. Because they could not see TV with the way the refresh rate was. They could not see motion on a TV. But now they see everything. So
that's true.
They see all the animals running across, and they think it's, you know, a window to the outside world. So like you'd have never seen them. Oh, goodness, I can't even. I think now she's backing away. So yeah, that's what happens when you don't take the dogs out for a walk before. And but I'm not a bad owner. It's just that I'm not able to because she's recovering from an operation. So that's why she's being a bit of a devil. So she's recovering well, at least.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and just another thing with that Aputure, the 120, is it D? You said,
yeah, 120
Mark II or something.
Yeah, 120D Mark II.
Now, Mark II, what's the difference? What's the big thing about the Mark II from the non-Mark II? Did it have? Because I'm just thinking about it when it first came out. I sort of missed out what the Mark II differences were. If you
let's see, the Mark II. Well, it lets you go all the way down to 0 on the intensity, and let's see, what else does it do? I believe the light's just supposed to be cleaner as well. Like it's supposed to be a truer color or whatever. And yeah, the two that we have are the D Mark I and Mark II, and they're both just daylight. So on these ones you can't change the color temperature.
But that's what I think we're getting there with cameras and you know, filming, and that is the cameras are getting to a point where they'll all pretty much do a good job if you know what you're doing with them. But then to invest in other different things, if you want to, like you said, they're like better lighting quality, better sound production, and they're all the things I think that I quite enjoy, because they say the camera will still film something, but you can do so much more with lights. Like, I don't know if you ever saw this one, Andiox did one in, I think it was in Norway, and he had one of the Aputure ones, and what he did, he had stuck it in a tree in a park and filmed at night, but made that look like really bright moonlight, so it lit the scene. But I think it's amazing what people can do and how to do it. And then he wanted to film a sort of you know, an early morning scene with the sun rising. He didn't do it, so he had one of the big lights, the LEDs outside the window spraying in, and with it and making that, and that was at night time too, but it made it look like the morning. But it was quite impressive to see how somebody who's skillful with lighting can make so many different things with just the way that they place a light. And like you've seen before as well, you can make it nice and happy, or very sinister by just placing the light underneath somebody's chin.
Yeah, exactly.
and put it at the side and cover the face in shadow. That can be the right sort of look. So it's not where I remember the old lights. The old lights used to make you all look like vampires because they were so bright. There was nothing there, and you know, you'd had to. But they said all it was you had to brighten up, no shadows and nothing. Whereas now, that's why I like the way video's going. You've just got so many more skillful ways of lighting things. It's not just, you don't have to see things. It's just to light things in a way that you don't see particular thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's generally what you try to do in photography too, where it's like you try to a lot of it's a lot of portrait photography uses soft lighting, unless it's I guess portrait photographers don't generally use harsh kind of really direct lighting unless they're trying to shape the shadows in a very specific way, or they're trying to do the mood lighting, I guess.
Yeah, but as I said, it's all making the quality out there so good, and I think we're just living in such a great time that we can get that. So the quality that people can put out, and then it's showing off all these people's skills that they would have been able to do that. So that all these rising stars come up because they can do it with cheaper equipment, and somebody say, oh, they know what they're doing, and give them some money to explore other opportunities in that. So whereas I think years ago, unless you had plenty of money or somebody had tons of faith in you, nobody'd know that you could do anything of this because you just wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I guess, things have gotten more affordable and more accessible, and, sometimes the kind of consumer level of certain types of lighting just didn't exist, 10 years ago.
And like I said, nowadays some of the later cameras that a few years ago they had built-in flashes, and now a lot of them are coming without them. But even when they did have built-in flashes, very rarely that you use the flash in most cases, unless you're doing a proper portrait, because most of the time you want that particular lighting or whatever. And so even home lighting, from when it's gone from the old light bulbs now to the LEDs, even just normal lighting in houses is much better when you get a fuller one, when you have the daylight color and that. Whereas the old light bulbs, even though it looked bright, it still never seemed to do the right color and that. So now even in offices where they've all been, the fluorescents have been replaced by LEDs, it's really good. So it's a lot of the times you just need the bit of light to get rid of a bit of shadow or whatever, or just to cover up a little in a little dark area, but very minimal lighting needed these days.
Yeah, and I guess it's not just I mean, having more common LED lighting, it allows people to use brighter lights, but also with current LED technology, we get a lot more control over the colors, right? Previously, a lot of indoor lighting was kind of odd color-wise. Like the fluorescence would be very blue, I guess, and incandescence that you would use at home would be very yellow. So you'd take pictures or something at home, and people would all be looking like they're part tangerine or something. And the other thing I just remembered what I was going to say was with the built-in flashes, I think camera manufacturers have realized that the context where people are going to use flash, it's generally going to be one where they'll just pull out their phone anyway, like very quick kind of at the moment kind of things, where they probably won't want to go get their camera anyway.
Yeah, that's right. So I've just lost my thread. I was just going to say something really intelligent then, but I can't remember what it was. So I'll have to leave it for next time.
Well, this is a placeholder. This is where we'll cut in Geoff saying something very intelligent.
Well, that's right. But when you do, I'll do that. You get, oh, okay. When he stops, I'll say that, and then I was thinking about something else, and it totally went from me. So also as well, Harold, you was talking about you were seeing about the release of the new Canon.
Oh yeah, there's Canon announced the EOS RP, which is it's kind of like a lower end version of the EOS R, I guess, which it's a little weird because the EOS R itself, it seemed like maybe it was a little lower end in certain respects compared to other comparable full frame mirrorless cameras. Like we were thinking, maybe this isn't really going to be their mirrorless flagship. Maybe they're going to come up with a better one, next year or whatever. But now they've come up with a lower end, more affordable one, which I believe is I forget the exact price of it. I think it's like 1,000 or 1,200 less than the EOS R to get the body.
To me, that just seems very strange, because to me, to get a full frame is not low end. So why bother? If you do low end, go to the APS-C, you can go to the Canon 80D or something. That, to me, it destroys the whole point of it, sort of thing, the low end. So
yeah, the whole idea, that is true. Yeah, making a full frame camera, a full frame digital camera body cheap seems odd, because you're going to be spending a considerable chunk of change on the lenses anyway. So, you're usually taking it as, a whole investment where you're going to be factoring in the lenses, the camera, all the other stuff that you'll need for it. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's a bit, because it's like Sony. Like Sony had the A7, the A7R Mark III, A7R Mark III. And then they did the A7 III, but it wasn't a cheaper version of it. It was a different version.
Yeah, it was a different version.
And in many cases, like, most people have gone to the A7 III because it does actually better things for them than the A7R III. So, whereas I think what Canon tends to do, they're making it cheaper, and it is a cheaper, less quality, less thing than that. But as I said, the Sony, they did the right thing with that, because it did different markets. Like, as I said, the body might not be as strong, but it had better, I think, just better quality on the video, and but not as much in the megapixels. But most people don't need that. Once you get over about the 20 megapixels in the standard things that most people doing, it doesn't make that much difference. If you, like you say, if you're wanting to just get in the top right-hand corner of a shot because you're so bad at framing it, the 42 megapixel might be great. So if you can frame it better and zoom in and fill out the screen, but most of the times, it doesn't matter. But you said the Kasey Stern does a video on that Canon one. I haven't seen that one as yet. Tell me what he was talking about.
It's good. The one point that he made in it that I liked was he was saying he doesn't believe that Canon's really holding back on IBIS. He thinks they just don't know how to do it. They're just trying to figure it out, and
I like his style, because what he usually does in those ones, and I haven't seen this one, but I bet you he does there. He has he plays two researchers and developers at Canon, and he says, "Oh, yeah, I hope you fix that camera and put that new image stabilizer on it." What do you say? Image? No. Oh. Let's pretend we don't need it.
Well, this one he does the simulated boardroom meeting, and with the developers, and he has one of the developers like, here, why don't you come sit on my knee and I'll show you how we'll balance the camera.
I like his reviews, and for those who don't know, go have a look at Camera Conspiracy with Kasey Stern.
Yeah, we'll link his channel below, because we like that guy's videos.
And he keeps changing. He's just spent the last 14 months or 18 months in Thailand and he's got another channel called The Vegetable Police, which is quite entertaining, watching his day-to-day carryings on and what he's doing with dietary intake and that. But now he's moved back to Toronto, but he's quite skillful in the way he does some videos. So he had one prepared. He was filming himself in Thailand, of course, knowing he was going home. So he patched it in together, talking to his future self and patching it in him, saying, "Oh, it's lovely here in lovely hot Thailand." And he said, "What did you ever do, loser?" Going back, and then he flicked back to him in Toronto, freezing with his jacket in the snow and all that stuff. But he's quite skillful in the ways he does things. He did quite a good one in a gym, and there was all these people, and he says, "Due to copyright issues, the voices of all the people will be done by me." And so they're all talking to him, and he says, here's Jake. Hi, I'm Jake. And he's doing voices like that with this big muscular fella. Yeah, that's fine. But and then there was a woman. He said, "Hi, I'm Lola." But it just. I wish I could come up with
I'll
crazy
have to check out
things
that
like
one.
that.
I didn't actually see the gym one.
But have a look in Vegetable Police. You'll see. But he's got all the. But it was so funny. But he's just so skillful putting the voices together and setting up the scene. So we must have went into the gym and said, "Nah, guys, here you say this, you say that, or else." Because I think he must have asked them to just say this so he knew how to prepare it later and that. But that's half the thing with videos is just having the guts to get out there and do a lot of things. And like what he does that I wish I could do a lot is he doesn't care where he films. Yeah. Whereas me and you get a bit, better not get the camera out there, but people will think I'm a bit of a weirdo or whatever. He doesn't care, and you can see people in the background looking, and he says, "Oh, somebody's looking at me. Here's this crazy person walking with a camera talking to himself."
Don't want to make a fuss in public, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And he had one of these last videos. He went to. I was going into it. Oh, what camera's that? And really freaking people out because he's asking people, "What camera have you got?" Oh, and this had this. Oh, it's a Nikon. It's a full frame. Oh, yes, definitely full frame. And he went away and then patched in later. Loser. It wasn't a full frame. It's an APS-C. He said, "Oh, Nikon used her anyway." So.
Well, so see, there's another reason to be nervous when you're out shooting, because there might be a very critical Casey Stern watching you.
Oh, but then that's the thing is with anything. Sometimes people worry about people being critical, but you just got to understand, no matter what you put out there, no matter how good it is, there's going to be people who criticize it, and there's different views. And if everybody was perfect out there, YouTube would be worthless to watch, because you're watching broadcasts things, then you just want to see imperfections. You want to hear people, "Oh, is that what people think about that? That's wrong," but that's what they think about it. So it's I think, like we were saying with Sydney last week, it's just getting out there and just putting things out. I tend to do that, and not think too much about it. So I'll hold back in that, but hey, you hold back and then it never gets done. Like, how many of us have got tons of photos, tons of videos that never seen the light of day? Oh no, that's not good enough for that. That's not good. Hey, if it's nothing embarrassing, put it out there. So.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of criticism, on YouTube specifically, a lot of people get kind of discouraged when they see people disliking their videos. But really, YouTube, I'm pretty sure YouTube counts that as engagement almost equally to likes. So it doesn't really matter if someone's disliking your video. And to our viewers, I'm not saying your dislikes don't matter. We will try to improve based on what you tell us. But I mean, dislikes don't really hurt your video in terms of YouTube.
Well, and that's the thing is, when people who just leave the good, strong enough to leave bad comment, leave the comments that people make that are bad on their channel. I appreciate that, because if you see, like when I'm looking for a review on anything or whatever, if I just see good, I don't believe it, because the way people are, no matter how good it is, somebody disagrees with that. And when you're looking at a product, if you only see good, or it hasn't been out long enough, but there's always going to be bad. Something won't, and some person will think it does that and it doesn't, and they'll bag a product even when there isn't a problem. But I thought there's so many things out there that you see that say bad things about things. Yeah, but that's the way it is.
And
but
then sometimes you'll see a comment on a review or something that's saying like, you're bad, stinky, you're a criminal, and deserve to be put in jail, and then you just figure that must be the reviewer's friend.
Well, that's right. Because they said you always have somebody doing that, and they said, "Oh yeah, they've just done that as a prank." So put that on there as well. So, but that's what it's good for. There, as I said, like on Facebook, and that if you don't like something, they don't have a dislike, do they, on Facebook? Do they have a dislike?
They did before. I don't know. I actually don't use Facebook very much, so I'm not sure.
But one thing I'm glad they did change. I think they've changed because they used to have a like. Yeah, you had the like button, and somebody would say about some relative had died, and there's 1,500 likes. So, but now they've changed it so you can change it to make it sad, because it just seems wrong. No matter, even though you like it, thinking that you're there for them to show you your support, but I'm glad they changed that so at least you could say, right, I'm not. Oh, I like that. I'm happy for your loss, sort of thing.
Gosh.
But it sort of, and then even when you want to, it still is a bit funny. You want to, like a YouTube channel, I'm still a bit reluctant to unsubscribe, even though, because we've got so many, I try to keep them down to a minimum so I can keep track of them. But I hate hitting that unsubscribe button because it still, to me, feels like I'm slapping them in the face that I don't like them anymore. But
I mean, nowadays you can kind of do a soft unsubscribe by just like checking the notifications for a while, because you're still subscribed.
But I have to do a full, because I want to see my list. I don't want to have to think, oh, I'll go through there, and then sometimes it come back later, and I thought, oh, a video might pop up from one of the older ones, but I thought there's just so much out there. You just spend your day just looking at all your subscriptions and not doing anything. So I've cut it down to try and make it about 20 YouTube channels that I follow, and then just keep chopping and changing as I feel the whim.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily, feel like following every channel the whole time anyway. So yeah, I guess that makes sense to just kind of cut it down to what you're really interested at the time, right?
Well, that's right. Yes, and I don't have too many. Not that many people are following mine because I don't do a lot. But as I said, if you did a lot, you give them something to follow, the people will get out there and follow it. But as I said, but you don't have to have tons of followers, and don't freak out about if you haven't. As I said, get a few bit of content happening there, and then you might build them up a bit. So,
all right. Well, I think we're about at the end of our time now. So, speaking of being interested in videos and all that, we hope that we're putting out stuff that everyone out there watching is somewhat interested in. So if you like our stuff, then subscribe to us and follow our channel.
Yeah, certainly do that.
Yeah.
So thanks, Harold, and we'll see. We're back next week again. And is Rick back next week? Is he?
Yeah, Rick will be back next week, so you can look forward to that.
Okay. And you, of course, Harold. You'll be back.
I will, of course, be here. I'll be here in spirit, behind the scenes.
And you'll be there with a bright light under your chin with the new Aputure light, showing it off properly. Oh, look at Harold. It's blown away. Oh, he's just got the Aputure light on him.
I'm going to tell you a ghost story.
And just have a cigarette going with all the light. And that'll make it really creepy.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Tech Down Over.
Bye for now.
Bye.
The dog